my fabric has finally arrived, and I think it is time we make this dress. If you've been around my channel for a few months now, you might remember when I made my porcelain corset earlier in the summer. When I did that, I said, I feel like it deserves a gown to go with it, so let me know if you're interested, and you were. So I immediately ordered the fabric, and then it promptly took like 2 months to ship here. Not ideal, but it is here now. All this being said, I have now dropped every single project because I am so excited about this one that it has become top priority. Let's just jump right into this because I cannot wait a moment longer to get started on this dress. Now, the problem that really exists is that I bought this fabric a few months ago when I had a very clear plan for what I wanted to do. However, I've had lots of time to reconsider the plan, and because of that, I've completely changed my design for what I want to do with this. So, fingers crossed that I now have the right materials, given that I ordered it with one thing in mind and I'm completely going a different direction. I did buy 12 yards of this crystal organza, so that should be enough to accomplish whatever I'm thinking. We'll see. Fingers are very much crossed. Originally, I wanted to do a design by Rain Emery. She has a couple of simplicity patterns that she recently released, and I was going to be using this one because it already had the corset in the pattern that I just wouldn't use, and then all of the other details are part of it. That was the fabric I bought the pattern for. However, I was recently looking online at a bunch of dresses to go to a wedding, and I happened to be looking at the Selkie dresses, and I thought, wow, that would make a really good corset dress. So I may be completely changing my design to look more like a Selkie dress, which, again, I don't know if I have the fabric to do, but we are certainly gonna try. So that's kind of the vision. We're looking for big poofy dress, long sleeve that I can still use my bracers on. When I originally made them, again, I was using the Rain Emery dress as my inspiration, and they have the bracers built in. So we're gonna see. I think it's still gonna work. I think it's still gonna look good. We're just gonna have to trust the process a little bit and make up our own pattern, which has not gone well for me in the past, but I feel confident I could put something together. I think the first place for me to start is gonna be the skirt, because that's gonna take up the most fabric, and if I can get that out of what I have, we're gonna do great. Let's cut a giant skirt. So while I'm cutting this out, it's probably a good time to go over the design for this dress. Like I said, the Selkie brand was for sure an inspiration for it. All of their poofy dresses are just to die for. I think a big swooshy skirt is going to be pretty easy to achieve by cutting out large double circle skirts. Unfortunately though, my fabric isn't wide enough to get the length I want. As you can see, I'm going to the very edge and I'm only getting to about a midi length. So to compensate, I'm going to add a tier at the bottom to make it floor length. And with a little bit of fluffy help, all I have to do is sew these two pieces together. I think I have made a mistake, and unfortunately that mistake was at the very beginning of this whole project, in that I did not think I needed to use a pattern to make this dress. I really think I should have used a pattern. I hit a point after sewing the first layer of the skirt where I tried it on, sort of, and I hated it. It didn't look like I wanted it to, it wasn't giving what I was hoping it would, and I just was not stoked about what it was looking like. I could continue forward and trust the process that it's gonna work out, but I don't know that it will. Mostly because my sewing knowledge is pretty limited. Majority of the pieces I have ever sewn, you have seen me do on this channel, which is not many. And I really should be following a pattern to make something this intricate. And now I'm really upset because I've cut most of my fabric into a lot of pieces, and it really is gonna be tricky to salvage from here. What I think I'm gonna do to proceed, which is a little bit sad, is essentially start over. I have found a pattern now. It is unfortunately 100 pages, so that's gonna be fun to put together. The pattern in my mind is kind of two parts. It's one full dress, but I'm kind of picturing it as two parts. The top and then the skirt part. I'm gonna start by doing the top. I'm almost certain I have enough fabric of the uncut stuff for me to make that work. From there, I'll figure out the skirt. I'm pretty sure I have enough of my lining fabric because it's just a big bed sheet and the lining isn't so crazy. And then as far as putting on like the pretty fabric over top, the design, and you'll see it has like a big ruffle on the bottom. At the very least, I think I have enough fabric that I can piece together to make that big ruffle. It's not gonna be like exactly the vision that I had initially, but if I actually wanted to do that, I should have found a pattern to begin with before I started making this. Alternatively, I could have just, you know, done a mock-up using my lining to make sure that the pattern I was making up in my head actually was gonna look good. There was a lot of points I could have done this differently and made this not so much of a headache. It is what it is. We live and we learn, we make mistakes, and we figure out how to fix them. Step one is putting together this giant pattern. I think I'm gonna have to go to the floor of my living room for that. The pattern did in fact take forever to put together, but once it was done, I could get started on cutting all the bodice pieces. It was a bit of a puzzle because I was trying to use all the scrap edge pieces of my fabric, which did mean that I was ignoring the grain lines for the most part. I know it's not ideal, but we're doing what we can with the fabric that we have left. From there, I just followed all the instructions and began putting the bodice together and the lining. Even took the time to press my seams as I was sewing because I'm trying to be a little bit professional with this one. At this point in the night, I was losing steam, so to keep the dopamine flowing, I changed gears and took the time to add some sparkle to the lace trim that would eventually go on the bottom of this dress. I had lots of rhinestones left over from making the corset, and I thought that the matching detail would be a nice touch. So it has been a minute since I've worked on this dress. If you've seen my last video, you'll know I went on a bit of a side quest to do a little showgirl corset. Go check it out if you haven't, it was a fun time. I also got sick, which meant I was out of commission for a few days. Not ideal, we are nowhere near done. I have to do the whole skirt. Hopefully I have enough fabric for it. I have to do all of the sewing of the ruffles. The sleeves are not on the bodice. The bodice is mostly done. The closure isn't done in the back. So we have a lot of work to do. But I think it's doable. And if it's not, well, we're gonna make it doable. Today, I want to cut all of my fabric. All of my fabric should be cut by the end of today. That's number one. Secondly, I want to fully finish the bodice today. So sleeves all done. If I can get the cutting and the sleeves all sorted out, that's a big win for today. After that, I'll have to put together the skirt and do all the ruffling, but I can do that tomorrow. So today's goal, cut fabric, finish the bodice. With a very adorable project manager overseeing things, I spent a very long time cutting fabric today. There is something about sewing that just gives me insane levels of time blindness. I don't know why, but I can never estimate how long a project is going to take me, and so it may look like I didn't do much today, and that is because I didn't. It was all cutting this fabric. So it's the next day. I did a few things this morning, just chill off camera, that I thought you wouldn't care about seeing. One was sewing the lining onto the inside of the bodice. I had to hand sew that. I hate hand sewing. It takes forever. The other thing I did was I put the grommets into the back panel as well, so that's all done. Checking in for yesterday. I did not complete either of the two tasks I wanted to. However, I think we're in a good position today. As far as cutting the material goes, I cut everything except for the giant ruffle. I did seam ripped the old ruffle off the other first attempt of the dress. which should be basically all the fabric I need to make that gathered ruffle. I just have to cut it in half because it's like 2 times as tall as it needs to be. So in my mind, it's basically cut. Big work day. Got a lot to do. Let's get the machine turned on and let's start sewing. So my first step of the day was to put the sleeves together and sew them to the bodice. I had done basically all of the prep work for this yesterday, so it went pretty smoothly. And after a few stitches, the bodice of the dress was finally complete. Next, I took my skirt pieces, sewed them together, and pressed all the seams before marking and pinning the box pleats. After working with the organza this whole time, using just the cotton fabric was so nice. It didn't slide around, it didn't try to run away from me. It was so easy to get all of this together. The last thing to do with the cotton fabric was to hem the bottom of the band piece. I did buy a rolled hem foot for my sewing machine, and this was actually magic. You basically feed the fabric in and it rolls itself into the most perfect baby hem you've ever seen without needing to iron or pin. It saved me so much time because this piece is probably 20 feet long and would have taken me a whole day to hem if I had to do it the traditional way. After using my little magical sewing trick, I did sew the lace trim to the bottom of this edge, but I cannot find any clips of me doing it, so just pretend you saw me doing a simple straight stitch along the top and then tacking the rest of it down with fabric glue. After that, it was time to work on the organza ruffle. I finally got my hands on some pinking shears to hopefully help the fabric from not fraying once I cut that edge. However, this did not really work. Maybe it's because I had the grain line running the wrong way, or this fabric is maybe just the worst thing to work with, but it still shed all over the place after I cut it and while I was hemming it. So if you're a sewer and you know how to fix this, please let me know, because I do not want to deal with all of these shiny hairs anytime I use a fabric like this. After hemming the one side of this long strip, I set my machine to a large basting stitch and went along the whole side so that I could begin gathering it. I then laid the ruffle and the band out along the longest part of my house and tried to gather the organza piece to match the length of my cream band. Okay, we're on the floor. I was trying to gather all of this organza. However, the fabric is fraying so badly even after pinking it that all of my gathering stitches just came out. So that sucks. And I think I just have to cut it from the dress because I don't know that I can physically get it to work. And that's super annoying. So annoying. So annoying. Because again, I put so much time into this part and I really wanted there to be the like pink color on the bottom of this dress, and I don't think it's gonna work out given my skill and my tools and the mistakes I have made along the way. So it's super frustrating. I think if I had done this on the correct grain line, it may not have frayed as badly. I do know it would have gathered easier, which may have meant that it wouldn't have frayed as bad. It kind of is what it is at this point. I don't know how to fix this because I don't have the abilities to fix this, and I'm not ordering more fabric because that will take another month. So what I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sew that bottom band to the skirt without the ruffle, and then see what I think of the dress. Either it's good and I'm happy with it at that point and we finish it, you see reveals in like a minute, or I don't like it yet and I just start adding more stuff to the dress. I honestly just need to finish this project because it's eating my life. So we're sewing that band on and then we'll see how we feel. Let's go. So after that little bitty crash out over wasting all of my fabric, I pinned and sewed the band to the skirt. Because it was all the cotton bedsheet and not the super slippery organza, this was very quick to do, thankfully. From there, all that was left was to attach the skirt to the bodice, and then finally, I think we can call this dress done, and we can head over to the reveal. let's talk about this dress. I had to take it off, number one, because it was a little wet and dirty after walking through the creek. So we can talk about it here. Overall, I do like this dress. Do I love it? No. I think because I had such a strong vision in my head of what I wanted this to be when I set out to make it versus what it is now, that is why I do not love it. It's missing some of that extra like oomph that I was really hoping for with the big poofy skirt and using the pink fabric all the way down. It is what it is. We made some mistakes. We had to do what we could with what we had. Ultimately, it does look really nice in the reveal shots. I'm really happy with how it looks, but there's a lot of little things that could be better. For example, I never finished the edges of the sleeves. There's supposed to be a cuff that goes on it. I didn't make that because I was like, oh, I'm just gonna shove it into the bracers. You're never gonna see it. Probably should have, because this was awful to wear. Super itchy, not comfortable. Also, inner lining, not sewn down. Didn't want to hand sew that at the end of this project. So that's another thing that I could ultimately make better on this dress. And also, the skirt. It is a very large, plain piece on this otherwise kind of exciting dress. And I really wish there was something else there. If I hadn't spent like 3 weeks working on the fabric and the cutting for this whole thing leading up to this skirt disaster, I probably would have done more to it. I've in fact already had some ideas for things I could do for it, like painting on it, embroidery, beadwork, more rhinestones, just something so it's not so plain. Maybe down the line we'll get to it if you want to continue watching this saga. It's supposed to be the end, but you know, here we are. Maybe part 4 is in order. But overall, I am pretty happy with the outcome. Given all of the challenges and my sewing abilities, the fact that I was able to pivot and get this, very happy with it. Sometimes that's just life. You go one way, the path leads another, and you end up here. If you have enjoyed watching me stumble my way through this sewing project, consider liking or commenting. Your feedback and all of your engagement really does help the algorithm push this video out to more people. Along with that, I am trying to reach 500 subscribers by the end of this year. I'm putting it into the universe now. We are still 100 away, but with each one of you, we get there a little bit faster. And with that, I'll see you guys next time.